This has now sparked the question, what is the Isle of Bounds? If you aren't a video game background genius and you want an explanation in English, it's basically out of bounds. There, that's it. You can leave now. Oh, you're still here? Cool, you want to know more. To be honest, I know in some eyes of a few gamers out there think of the out-of-bounds space as just another dimension in-game, which in this case is. The Isle of Bounds is a place, and cannot be accessed in most games that easily unless you're a hacker. In most games, the Isle can be apparent in over, under, or beside a map if it's a level, chapter, or section. Hence the division of the map, and the Isle is divided in a margin. The margin can be both visible or invisible depending on the quality of the map or the game itself. In this video, we will use 3 different games as prime examples to determine what kind of shapes and sizes the margin can appear as. Number 1. Garry's Mod. Garry's Mod is the perfect example because it is a Source sandbox game with multiple games, including Half-Life 2, Team Fortress 2, Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, and many others. Cold Source and Half-Life Source will not be counted for this example. Source map margins are all different sizes and shapes, but almost all of them have one similar feature to determine the boundary between the map and the Isle of Bounds. Let's use 2 Fort as an example. 2 Fort has 2 locations where the margin can be visible on both sides, the space in between the bridge and the space in between the intel and respawn. No clip is obviously needed for breaking the boundaries of the margin, and online Source games are critical against the breaking because of VAC security, disuse of commands, and all that jazz. Now, look here. This is the division, the wall in between the margin between the map and the Isle of Bounds. Now, we know we all can see the other side, but interestingly, the other side is still technically part of the map, even when it's in the Isle of Bounds. Let's look at the bridge space. The margin and the Isle of Bounds is disguised by extra map and the skybox. That expresses the expanded detail of the map and gives the extra unenterable areas some life. This part of the Isle of Bounds will be referred to as the chunks, meaning that many parts, or chunks, are used up to disguise the division, because the division can apparently be seen without having to break the wall. Most Garry's Mod maps have way easier ways to find the division. Most of them aren't even based on recreations or scenes of some actual Source maps. Number 2. Boneworks. Boneworks is a little bit different, and by little I mean a lot. Monaghan Industries and its 3-dimensional operating system Mythos really mean business when it comes to its freaking tall walls and buildings, but lucky for you, if you happen to be the victim of a very rare physics withdrawal, yeet! You could get on the top of a building and see what's on the other side. The difference of the margin between Source and Boneworks is that Source's margins are confined, while Boneworks' margins aren't. At least not inside a large building within a level, like the Museum of Technical Demonstration or something. Apparently the margin isn't easy to find in Boneworks because there hardly is one. You can fizzy bump or mod your way up to the top to check it out. This part of the Isle of Bounds would be referred to as the Heights, meaning that Boneworks has the use of walls or very tall objects like buildings to block off or to disguise the margin and the division. Unlike Source, Boneworks is a manipulative program, but a little more complex. So complex that a code misalignment could break the game. Check this shit out. I added a pump shotgun mod into the game. I pump it once, and there we go. Yeah, like I needed that to happen. Number 3, VR chat. Let's use these 2 maps, Dinos in the Observatory by The Lucky King and Night Church by OP Cherry. So, what these 2 maps have in common is that they have a focused central zone where the map is supposed to look at its best, where the textures, shapes, and style are S tier. Although, if you escape the center, and it doesn't matter if you're allowed to be outside of the central zone or not, and you go further beyond, the textures and shapes become less rendered, low resolution, and just progressively worse. If you go to Night Church, it's clear that there would be a brick path to a few benches and a large tree, but who really cares? Look here. The church looks great, and so does its surrounding buildings, like some sort of invisible ring, and the next few layers, so forth, are less than high resolution, on and on until there are no buildings left. There's the church, the closest buildings to the church, the buildings in the middle, and the last buildings outward. And for Dinos in the Observatory, this is a little bit different, but incredibly similar. As soon as you step out of the building and go far past the trees, bushes, rocks, and dinosaurs, the objects and textures become less rendered and less worked on. Yeah, you see this floating rock here and how it's on the outside of the texture, and over here, you see how there's a waterfall entity here, but there's no rocks and a water stream to make it happen. And these rocks, they look a little bit stretched. This part of the Isle of Bounds would be referred to as the vignette, meaning that the transparency of quality based on the distance in maps like these will change from how farther you go away from the focused central zone. Technically, the margins and the division don't exist sometimes in vignette maps because, like an actual vignette, the fades don't have a definite border, but can be determined based on the shade. The darker it is, the worse the quality is. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video about what you need to know about the Isle of Bounds. Like I said before, it's basically just out of bounds. The Isle is a place, and it can be apparent in over, under, or beside a map. I understand that there are already existing terms for chunks, heights, and vignettes, but this was so much fun explaining, I feel like I needed to make this so there is a much easier and more understandable way to tell how good or bad a map in a video game is. I hope you learned a little something today. Thanks for watching, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Later!